Fox News Podcasts presents the Bret Baier Podcast with Fox News Chief Political Anchor Bret Baier.
Mr. Speaker, thanks for the time.
Welcome to Capitol Hill. Glad you're here.
We're happy to be here. We talk a lot about the ability to so-called herd the cats. That's tough to do. It seems it's tougher for Republicans sometimes. But now you have a majority that is really slim. Heading in after the election, 220 to 215, but you're going to lose 3, so 217 to 215. President-elect Trump says he's going to have promises made, promises kept. How do you keep those promises with that majority?
We're absolutely convinced that we can keep those promises, and we're excited to do it. There's a real esprit de corps among the Republicans in Congress right now. We have a new president, a new day in America. President Trump is coming into the White House with a big mandate, and I think that extends to us as well.
The New York Times writes it this way: if all Democrats are present and united in opposition to a measure, Mr. Johnson won't be able to afford a single defection on the House floor until those vacancies, the 3, are filled later this spring. Even then, no more than 3 Republicans can break ranks without dooming a bill's passage. With Republicans in control of Congress and the White House, you'll be managing high expectations with thinner margins and crucial deadlines. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, that's a fair assessment of the challenge, but look, we're excited by this. We've demonstrated already that we can govern with a small majority, and I'm very confident that we can check the boxes and get this agenda done, and it'll be very aggressive beginning right out of the gate.
You talk a lot about your playbook all the time. You said you have not mapped out your order of sequencing of bills yet. Every offensive coordinator has some map out of the first 30 plays, let's say,
Sure,
of a game if he wants to run. Shouldn't that be done by now?
Well, look, the preseason preparation, let's extend the football metaphor, has been going on for quite some time. What changed, of course, is that we have a brand new head coach in this metaphor. That's President Trump. I'm the quarterback in this analogy, and he and I are working this out. The problem is he's been very busy, and I've been very busy, so we haven't had time to sit in the room, look at all the menu of options in that playbook, and order the sequencing. But that's not going to be a problem to do. We've got some of it, but not all of it. He and I will be together this weekend before the Army-Navy game. We'll be going to the game together. We'll have lots of discussion. I just hadn't had a lot of FaceTime with him in the last week and a half or so because we got a lot going on here. But we'll figure this out.
One of the things in order to do it is budget reconciliation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of expectations that that's going to be used for the legislative goals. But you have to first adopt a budget to get to that point, to be able to use that tool.
Right.
That's not easy. Passing a budget is not easy. It always is tough. So doesn't that mean things may have to wait a while if you don't get a budget?
No, look, everyone is absolutely determined to get the budget done very quickly right out of the gates. We begin
in January?
Yeah, we're going to do that early January. That will set the table for the reconciliation process. And the reason that's so important, of course, for folks back home, remember, the only way around the 60-vote threshold in the Senate to go with a bare majority is the reconciliation process. You're reconciling
51.
the budget. Right. So 51 votes in the Senate is the magic to do the real policy change that we want. We think we can squeeze a lot into that limited process. There probably will be at least 2 reconciliation packages. So the determination right now is, where does the tax piece fit in? Do we do that first out of the gates, or do you wait a couple months to get all that done, because it can be very complicated?
And in that scenario, immigration maybe would go first.
Yes, I mean, it's no surprise that border is the top of everyone's priority list because it's the top of the list for the American people. We do that. We do energy policy. We ensure that we don't have the largest tax increase in U.S. history, which is what would happen at the end of next year if we don't extend those tax cuts, and a lot of other things that we want to do. In the meantime, we'll be dismantling the deep state, and that's what the DOGE effort is all about.
I want to talk about DOGE for a second. You just had this meeting with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy up here on the Hill. There's a lot of mystery about how that's going to work and how that outside group is going to interact with you all in Congress. What's your assessment of it after that meeting?
I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do really big transformational things. I brought them to the Hill last week and met with a small group of chairs of the committees of jurisdiction, people who are actually kind of the engineers of the budget and kind of the infrastructure of government and how it works. great productive discussion, interaction, but Congress certainly has a role to play in all of that and how it interacts with the budget and all that together. There's a lot of meticulous planning that goes into executing on this, and I'm very confident we'll be able to do that. Elon and Vivek are pretty smart guys, and they know a lot about running efficient and productive companies, and this is a large one, the federal government.
Are you worried at all about your January 3rd election as Speaker?
I'm not. Look, we have a unified conference. I've talked with every single individual at great length, and all of us collectively are ready to take, using our football metaphor, to take this proverbial football and run it right back up the field. And to do that, you've got to have cohesion in your team, and you've got to have all that predetermined, and it is. So I think we'll have a smooth transition, a smooth election to Speaker, because we don't have any time to waste.
We'll hear more after this.
To that point, before you even get to the new Congress, you have a lot to do. Are you worried about the possibility of a government shutdown?
I don't worry in this job, Bret. I can't. I don't have the luxury of it.
You don't have any worries, Mr. Speaker?
No, I don't. No. I'm convinced we'll get this done. It will largely be bipartisan, I think, in the end. No one thinks it's fruitful or productive to shut the government down at the end of the year. I think there's consensus that we can do a CR to March. I think it'll be a 3-month CR.
Continuing resolution.
Right. And that will...
Which is not your favorite thing. You campaigned on not doing it.
Yeah, well, in principle, we don't like continuing resolutions, but in this case, as a Republican, as a conservative, it does make the most sense, and that's why all the conservative groups are in favor of that idea, because it allows us to make more of these key decisions in the new year when we have the new Congress, new president, new Senate and House.
NDAA, the defense bill, continuing resolution, the disaster relief, you expect that to be all together or 3 separate bills? Does it start in the House? What does it look like?
We got the NDAA decided on the House side. We'll be sending that as a separate bill over to the Senate in final package, and I think it's got a great chance of getting done. The NDAA is one of the last bipartisan things that's done in Congress, and for 63 straight years, I believe it's happened. So it'll get done this year as well. The CR, the continuing resolution, is up next, and then we have disaster relief. We're working on the details of both of those latter measures.
The new defense budget prepared over the weekend, you just mentioned, does not include this $25 billion increase in spending that the incoming Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Roger Wicker requested. He calls it a, quote, missed opportunity. Is he right?
We hope that we can restore quickly peace through strength. I think we can get right back to the funding aspects. Part of the reconciliation process, probably, in the first part of next year.
But does that require more money for the Pentagon, for the military?
Well, the Pentagon does need investment. It's about prioritizing. So in the NDAA, for example, even though we gave the largest pay raise in a while to troops, to enlisted persons, for example, over 14%, we also cut about $30 billion from wasteful and excessive programs, older weapons systems. You're going to see the zeal for that in the new Congress in January. We're going to have the most powerful fighting force on the planet. We'll ensure of it. But we're going to make sure that it runs efficiently as well. And those are not mutually exclusive pursuits.
President Biden appeared to take credit for Bashar al-Assad's downfall in Syria, saying our approach has shifted the balance of power in the Middle East. Does President Biden deserve credit for that?
The foreign policy of the current administration, the Biden administration, has been pretty disastrous, certainly in that part of the world. There's a lot of mayhem that has ensued that would never have happened under President Trump's hand and watch. I don't think President Biden can take credit for anything happening over there. It's a great development to have Assad, a brutal dictator, taken down out of his position. But we watch with careful anticipation about what happens and develops there next.
Mr. Speaker, we appreciate the time.
Thanks so much.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.